Welcome to Partnering Leadership. I'm so excited to have you along with me on this journey of learning and growth. Now, I know it's been a little while since I did a solo episode, but there have been so many wonderful guests whose insights I've wanted to share with you. There will be many more of those. But I thought it was time for me to also share with you something that can help you see the transformation we are experiencing, both from a technological perspective and also its impact on leadership and organizations. So for me, this is one of those moments where you get to see how the rapid evolution of AI can transform how we learn, lead, and help our teams grow. We talk about change all the time. It's a constant in all of our lives, but I truly believe what we are experiencing now, especially with AI, is a change on a whole new level. So I recently started experimenting with a tool called Notebook LM from Google. If you get a chance, I would highly encourage you to play around with it. At this point, it's free. If you have a Google account, you can access it. This isn't just another AI gadget. To me, it's a clear illustration of how AI is reshaping how we engage with knowledge. So here's what I did. I uploaded a 10-page PDF that I've created. It's a framework on how to unleash your team's potential. The document goes into 4 key areas: purpose, strategy, culture, and execution. These are the 4 areas that when I'm working with clients, I guide them on and I believe can have a significant impact on their results. So what I did using one of the capabilities of Notebook LM is to let Notebook LM do its magic. I uploaded it, and within minutes, that PDF was transformed into a 15-minute conversation between 2 hosts. Now, here's the kicker. None of this was scripted by me. I've written the original document. I spent a lot of time writing that original document, but I didn't script what these co-hosts should say about the document, about the content, and how to convey the message. You can be a judge for yourself how effectively they convey the message. The AI read the document, extracted key points, and created a full conversation around those concepts. Observations, questions, explanations. It's all generated by AI, and it sounds like a thoughtful, dynamic podcast. So I wonder for how long you're going to be listening to me and people like me doing podcasts when now AI can create such outstanding podcasts. But again, I'm using this as one example of what's happening with generative AI because I believe this is going to impact how we learn, how we exchange information, and how we can tap into the knowledge within our organizations. So as you listen to this conversation, you will not only hear a framework designed to unlock your team's full potential, but you will also get to experience how AI can transform complex information into an engaging discussion. It's not just a demonstration of technology, it's a demonstration of how we as leaders can reimagine how we engage with and apply new ideas. By the way, before I tell you specifically what's in this conversation, I've uploaded my blood test results, I've uploaded engineering documents, I've uploaded all kinds of things, and the AI does a brilliant job taking the content and making it into an engaging, lively conversation between these 2 co-hosts, which, by the way, keep in mind, these are not real people. Even though they sound real, the AI scripts the conversation and then makes sure to convey the message in a way that the listeners can relate to and understand. So for this episode, You will hear about the power of purpose and how aligning your team around a clear why can drive decision-making at every level. You will get insights into strategy, how to stay bold, focused, and talent-driven, while also preparing for inevitable disruption. You will learn about the importance of culture, cultivating a growth mindset, fostering psychological safety, and practicing partnering leadership. And of course, you will dive into execution, turning plans into action through effective systems, structures, and OKRs that keep everyone aligned and accountable. Now think about what this means for your organization. Imagine taking a complex strategy document and turning it into a conversation that your team can listen to, understand, and reflect on before your next meeting. Or distilling a detailed market analysis into an audio summary that's easy to share across departments. So I actually did this with one of my clients, where we took a dense strategy document and turned it into a conversation. Now think about how this will transform how we communicate in our organizations and beyond. So remember that, as I've said before, AI isn't just a nice to have. It's a tool that can make you a more effective leader right now. And leaders who integrate AI into their practices today will gain a significant edge in how they learn, communicate, and drive their teams forward. So let's jump in. You're about to hear this AI-generated conversation based on my 4-step framework to unleash your team's full potential. And remember, this is AI transforming leadership content into a rich, dynamic dialogue for your benefit.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into some really powerful leadership insights and unlock some serious team potential?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Today we're tapping into the wisdom of someone who's not just talking the talk. Mahan Tavakoli. He's led high-performing teams all over 90 countries.
Wow.
We're talking speed records, turning around a global region to actually hit double-digit growth.
Yeah.
And get this, he was Chief Diversity Officer on top of it all.
Seriously impressive track record.
Right. So Tavakoli, he doesn't just give you some one-size-fits-all solution. Instead, he's come up with this framework, 4 key elements of how organizations really perform.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Yeah, it's born from decades of real-world experience. And get this, helps you lead in this crazy, ever-changing world we're in.
The ever-changing world, that's putting it lightly. So what are these 4 elements? I'm ready to unlock some potential here.
Okay, so we've got purpose, strategy, execution, and culture. Sounds pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, and on the surface.
But here's the thing. They aren't separate boxes you just check off. Tavakoli, he's really adamant that they all work together.
Gotcha, like gears in a well-oiled machine.
Exactly. And if one gear is off, the whole system takes a hit. It's a big takeaway for any leader, really. Knowing these elements just isn't enough. They have to work together.
It all has to be in sync. Makes sense.
And at the very center of it all,
Let me guess.
purpose.
Yeah, purpose. I was going to say purpose.
But not just like a catchy slogan. We're talking the driving force, the heart of everything your organization does.
I like that, the driving force. Because without it, you're going nowhere fast.
Think of it this way. A team without that unified sense of purpose. They're like a ship without a rudder.
Oh, they're lost at sea. Adrift.
Exactly. They might be working hard, but without that shared direction, they'll end up miles off course, wondering why they aren't getting anywhere.
And that's a recipe for frustration and burnout right there.
Totally. And here's another pitfall Tavakoli talks about. Purpose getting diluted as it goes down the ranks. You, as the leader, you might be crystal clear on the why. But does that same clarity reach every single person on the team?
That's such a good point, because if it doesn't...
If not, everyone's rowing in different directions, and that helps nobody.
Right. It's like having all the ingredients for an amazing cake, but forgetting to, turn the oven on.
Okay, I love that analogy.
A clearly defined purpose that everyone's on board with, that's your oven. That's what's going to make sure all that effort actually turns into something.
So how do we make sure everyone's baking that cake properly?
All right, let's get into it.
Let's break down each element, starting with purpose. Tavakoli, he emphasizes this. A well-defined purpose isn't just some feel-good statement.
Right. It can't just be something you put on the website and forget about.
It's the lifeblood of your organization. And it's not just about what your company does, but why you do it. When your team connects with that why, when they feel like they're part of something bigger,
Yeah, that's when you unlock true engagement.
you unlock innovation, and ultimately, you get better results.
You're tapping into that intrinsic motivation, the stuff that really gets people fired up to come to work, you know?
Totally. A team united by a shared purpose. That's a force to be reckoned with. And that ties directly back to you as a leader, you know.
How so?
When you foster that sense of purpose within your team, it has this ripple effect. It impacts their performance, but it impacts the entire organization.
Absolutely. It's like setting the tone for the whole company culture.
Okay, so we've got purpose down. Next up, strategy.
Hit me with it.
Tavakoli breaks it down into 3 key factors: focus, talent,
And
don't leave me hanging.
embracing disruption.
Ooh, that's a good one. Love it.
Now, this is where we separate the dreamers from the doers. A strategy without focus, well, it's just like a shopping cart with a broken wheel.
You'll just keep going around in circles.
Exactly. This is about saying no to distractions and really zeroing in on what matters.
So how do we do that? How do we actually focus? Tavakoli, he uses Warren Buffett's 25-to-5 rule.
Okay, the 25-5 rule. I've heard of this, but
It's all about figuring out those top priorities and then, like, ruthlessly cutting everything else out.
wow, easier said than done, right?
Right. But even Buffett, one of the most successful investors ever, he knows how important focus is.
That's a good point. Okay, so we've got our focus. What's next?
Talent. Because even with the best strategy in the world, it's useless without the right people to actually make it happen.
You can't argue with that. It's all about the people.
And it's not just about checking off skills on a list. It's about recognizing that human element. You know, like Tavakoli says, people generate value, not organizations.
Okay, that's a good one. People generate value. I'm writing that down.
Which brings us to a huge part of strategy, especially these days. Embracing disruption. Get this, by some estimates, more than half of the Fortune 500 companies.
Wait, more than half of the Fortune 500 companies.
More than half, they're going to be replaced. Gone in the next decade.
Wow. Seriously.
That's crazy, right?
That's a huge wake-up call.
No matter how big, how successful your organization is, disruption is going to happen. So the key is to not just survive it, but
to actually use it to your advantage.
Exactly.
Easier said than done. But yeah, I get it.
And he's not just talking about, like, tech companies or whatever. This applies to every industry, every level.
So what you're saying is, it doesn't matter what business you're in, disruption is coming.
It's coming.
So what do we do about it?
That is the million-dollar question, right? And it's one that Tavakoli really wants us to think about.
Yeah.
Because, you know, pretending it's not going to happen, burying our heads in the sand.
Not a good strategy.
Not a strategy at all.
Okay, so we've talked about purpose, strategy. What's next?
Let's get to the heart of it all. Culture.
Company culture. The million-dollar phrase these days. Everyone's talking about it.
And I love how Tavakoli talks about it.
Yeah.
Because he reminds us it's not just about, like, fancy perks and ping pong tables.
Right. It's more than just like kombucha on tap and beanbag chairs in the break room.
It's about what you reward and what you punish, even in subtle ways. That's what shapes your culture.
It's the unspoken rules of the game, right?
Yes. It's those everyday things that influence how people interact and make decisions. Like, think about it.
It's like that saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yes. That's it. You could have the most amazing strategy, but if your culture doesn't support it, you're going nowhere.
It's like having a high-performance sports car, but trying to drive it on square wheels. It's just not going to work.
What's fascinating is that Tavakoli breaks culture down into these 3 key things: embodying a growth mindset, creating psychological safety, and practicing partnering leadership.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there, but let's start with growth mindset. I feel like I've heard that term a million times, but what does it actually mean in practice?
So we've talked about growth mindset. I feel like that's one of those buzzwords you hear everywhere these days.
It is, but Tavakoli, he really brings it back down to earth. It's not just about like individual growth, right?
Right.
It's about the whole environment, creating a space where everyone's learning, everyone's adapting, you know?
So it's like baked into the DNA of the organization.
Exactly. And he uses this great example, Satya Nadella at Microsoft.
Okay.
Remember when everyone thought of Microsoft as like this dinosaur, this slow-moving giant?
No, totally. Like they were struggling to keep up with everything changing so fast.
Right. And then Nadella comes in with this total growth mindset, not just for himself, but for like the entire company.
And it totally transformed them.
Transformed them. They went from playing catch up to like leading the pack in cloud computing, AI, everything. It shows you the power of that mindset shift.
Okay, so we've got growth mindset. What's the next piece of the puzzle here?
Psychological safety. And this is where a lot of leaders, I think they stumble on this one.
Why is that?
Because it's not always easy, right? Creating an environment where people feel like they can actually speak up, challenge things.
Especially when they disagree with the boss.
Exactly.
So how do you actually create that safety?
Well, Tavakoli, he makes this distinction. Psychological safety, it's not about just accepting every failure, right?
Okay, so it's not a free-for-all.
No. It's about encouraging people to take risks, but smart risks. And then learning from those experiences. It doesn't matter if you succeed or fail. It's about what you learn, you know?
It's about that continuous learning loop.
Exactly.
And that goes back to feedback too, right? If people are afraid to speak their minds, you miss out on all those insights.
Totally. It's like driving with your eyes closed, you know?
That's terrifying. And you're probably going to crash.
Exactly. You might think you're on the right track, but without that 360-degree view, you're headed for trouble. Okay, so we've got growth mindset, psychological safety. The last piece of Tavakoli's culture puzzle is partnering leadership.
Okay, tell me more about that. This is the first time I'm hearing about this, partnering leadership.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's about looking in the mirror and being honest with yourself. Are you truly partnering with your team? Or is it just command and control in disguise?
I think a lot of leaders, they struggle with that. They might say the right things.
Right, they talk about servant leadership and all that, but then they micromanage every little detail.
It's like that saying, do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. And we all know how well that works. Partnering leadership. It's about recognizing that everyone on your team, they bring something unique to the table. It's about creating that space where everyone feels ownership and accountability, where everyone's working together toward a common goal.
And it all comes back to that sense of purpose.
It all connects. When everyone understands the why, when they feel empowered, that's when the magic happens.
So we've got purpose, strategy, culture. What's left?
The big one, execution.
Yeah.
Because you can have the clearest purpose, the most brilliant strategy, an amazing culture, but if you can't execute, none of it matters.
It's like having all the best ingredients but not knowing how to cook. You're not going to end up with a very good meal.
Exactly. And Tavakoli drives this point home with this crazy stat. Harvard Business Review study found that 7 out of 8 companies.
7 out of 8.
7 out of 8. They fail to achieve profitable growth, even though they've got these detailed strategic plans.
So they have the plan, but...
They have the plan, but they don't know how to actually execute it.
That's wild. Okay, so how do we avoid becoming another statistic?
Well, Tavakoli breaks down execution into 3 key things: systems, structures, and OKRs.
Okay, let's start with systems. What's he say about systems?
He's very clear on this one. Systems should work for people, not the other way around.
Makes sense. It's easy to get so caught up in processes and procedures that you forget they're supposed to be helping us, not holding us back.
100%. And those rigid systems, they can really stifle innovation. And in today's world, you have to be adaptable. You have to be able to move fast.
So it's about finding that balance
Exactly.
between having enough structure to actually keep things moving.
But enough flexibility to adapt and, try new things.
And what about structure, like the overall organizational structure? What does Tavakoli say about that?
He says it should support execution. It shouldn't hold it back.
Okay, that makes sense.
So clear roles and responsibilities are key, but you gotta watch out for those silos.
Silos.
The ones that, block collaboration, make it hard for teams to communicate, break those down.
Got it. Break down the silos.
And finally, OKRs.
OKRs.
Objectives and key results. It's a whole other deep dive in itself, but basically it's a system for setting clear goals.
Okay, and tracking progress, right?
Yes. And what I like about OKRs, they are empower teams, give them a sense of ownership, but everyone's still moving in the same direction.
Align with the bigger picture.
Exactly. And this is key. OKRs, they got to be tied back to the organization's purpose. If they're not moving the needle on what actually matters, what's the point?
It's all connected.
It really is. Tavakoli doesn't just leave you with all this knowledge and say, good luck. He gives you a roadmap.
Okay, I like that. So where do we even begin?
It starts with a little self-reflection. He's got this great self-assessment rubric. You'll find it in the show notes.
Perfect. We'll make sure to link that in the show notes.
Take some time. Really dig into it. Where do you stand on all of these elements? And remember, There are no right or wrong answers.
It's not about being perfect. It's about being honest.
And don't be afraid to bring your team into it. Actually, Tavakoli, he's all about those open, honest conversations.
Because everyone's got blind spots, right?
Exactly. Sometimes those closest to the work, they have the clearest view.
Yeah.
Okay, so you figured out where you're at. What's next?
Time to take action.
Yes. Knowledge without action.
It's like that car without an engine.
You got it. It's not going to get you anywhere. So start small. Pick one or two things you can really focus on. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Transforming an organization, that takes time.
It's a marathon.
A marathon. And remember, you don't need to have all the answers right away.
The best leaders are the ones who are willing to learn and adapt as they go.
100%. It's all about that continuous improvement.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Mahan Tavakoli's insights, we'll leave you with this. What if the key to unlocking your team's true potential, what if it's about embracing that little bit of discomfort? What if it's about seeking out those dissenting opinions, those voices that challenge your assumptions, the ones that push you to think differently?
Those are the voices that will help you grow.
Keep diving deep, everyone, and remember, the most incredible discoveries, they often lie just outside our comfort zones.
So true.
That's it for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
Pretty remarkable, isn't it? That entire dialogue, two AI voices unpacking, questioning, and diving into key leadership principles, all generated automatically. And what's powerful is how AI can take something complex and turn it into a lively conversation that's easy to listen to, reflect on, and share. As leaders, this kind of AI isn't just a productivity tool. I want you to reflect on that. It is truly a game changer. It's going to impact so much of how we do what we do and the strategies of so many organizations. In my view, this is going to impact how we learn, lead, and engage with our teams, as well as organizational strategy. So here is my challenge to you. Pick one aspect of your team's learning or strategy sharing process this week and think about how a tool like Notebook LM, and full disclosure, I have no connection to Google or Notebook LM. I've just become a huge fan of it and I'm using it with clients consistently now, as well as, of course, the tools I've talked about before, ChatGPT, Claude. Feel free to reach out to me if you're looking for tools that I recommend to clients. But think about how a tool like Notebook LM could transform the way you approach, how you engage with content, and how AI could help you make your knowledge sharing more effective, your decision making more informed, and your team more aligned. That's why I encourage you to explore, experiment, and see how AI can become a part of your leadership journey. And as always, I'm here to support you, so feel free to reach out with any questions, insights, or stories of your own. There is a microphone icon on partneringleadership.com website. You can leave voice messages for me there, or feel free to email me directly, mahan@mahantavakoli.com. I love hearing from you, and I look forward to sharing many more conversations with you as together we are going to learn, grow, and make a positive difference. Until next time, keep leading with purpose.